Hello everyone, Mar Prime here. Domo Maruprime desu. Today I'll be showcasing my custom-made studio series, Dropkick from the Bumblebee movie. Now, Dropkick is one of my favorite characters from the Bumblebee movie because he looks pretty cool and he sounds really cool.
I almost forgot.
I didn't.
And unfortunately, studio series, I guess given the whole design barriers and complication, they weren't really able to make a real triple. They couldn't actually make a triple changing dropkick. So I thought this could be a fun challenge, and I did saw someone on Twitter a while ago, a long time ago, I should say, done where he basically kit bashed the caramel dropkick, and the helicopter dropkick, and then kit bashed it into this. So basically, this figure was inspired by what this guy did. I'll put up a link on the guy's Twitter post because I think that's where I found the reference from. So basically, without further ado, let's just bring him a closer look. So as you can see, there was a lot of cutting, chopping, and then re-gluing and pasting things back and forth. So basically, the only thing that are unchanged or basically intact is the arms, and probably the legs. And the head, obviously. The head is the car mold version because the helicopter one was just way too tiny. It feels like a tiny little walnut. Tiny little nut. Is as you can see, is basically the car dropkick. Basically the whole body is the car mold dropkick, and then just with lots of cutting and gluing with the bits and bobs of the helicopter parts and the car parts, just here and that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As you can see, that's how he looks from the front, and then I'll show you how he looks from the back. I managed to kind of cut off the helicopter rotor bit and then just glue it onto the back dropkick. Now, some of you might be wondering how I did it is basically because these kind of studio series, they are quite hollow on the inside of the chest area to accompany the transformation gimmick. Of course, this figure does not transform anymore because of my all of my customization and modification. But basically, it was quite empty inside. So what I did was, if you can see from this little gap here, let me just put this here. On the inside, let me just put a bit of light into it. There you go. Oh, there you go. You can see a bit of plastic boards. Basically, I just chopped off a bunch of them. I used the 0.5 millimeter plastic board. Just chop up a bunch of them until it's thick enough where this little piece where it houses the head, where it keeps the head jointed, touches the back of the rotor, and not too and it's not sticking too out, but it's also remaining a good distance between the head and the back. And yeah, that's how I did it. And then basically the rest is just chopping off essential parts and just gluing them back on. And that. Next up, I will show. Before I move on to showcasing the colors and tools I use, I also the gun, I still have it intact. I wanted to also keep the barrel guns from the helicopter mode, the two dual gallon barrel guns that he had in the helicopter version one, but I didn't know where to utilize in putting the guns, so I ended up just not doing it. But I did keep this little arm cannon thing that he did use in the movie, rather than, yeah. So Okay, so next up I will showcase the paint, and I will also introduce some of the tools that I've used to make this custom possible. Okay, so here are some of the stuff that I've used to make this custom possible. So without further ado, let's just showcase the tools first, then after that we'll move on to the colors I've used. First off, because there's a lot of cutting and a lot of chopping here and there, I use basically this. This is the Hyper Cutter Sword, the 0.1 millimeter version. Basically, these are very handy tools for model making work, because there are some people who probably think like, oh, I want to buy a sword, I want to buy a cutter saw, but I don't want to buy like those big ones like the workmen use, or maybe like there are like the ones that Tamiya offers, but they are also very big. And maybe those maybe are a bit too intimidating because of the size and the whole, it's too big, it might tear. And you know, for someone in my age, your parents might get worried the fact that you had a sword as your tool. So this is something I guess usable for, I wouldn't say for all ages, but it is a very if you look at the size, it's not very big. It's just maybe, yeah, it's about that. And the saw is about 0.1 millimeter thin, so it's just, but they do cut very, very smoothly. If you line it up your piece properly and you just chop it off, you should chop it off very smoothly. So yeah, this is one of those tools I would highly recommend it if you like to do cuttings and gluing, customizing and all that. But yeah, I highly recommend it. And then next up are how I glue maybe like the chest with the helicopter cockpit and all that. Basically, this guy. This is my best friend, the Tamiya Cement. Tamiya Cement is probably one of the best things that you could use when it comes to gluing things. You can always use stuff like super glue, but the problem with super glue is that they take quite a long time to dry. But often or not, these kind of hobby cement tools, it usually dries a lot more quicker than super glue, because super glue, I would say super glue needs about at least maybe 5 to 10 minutes to actually have them properly stuck still. While cement, you just glue it, you put on the cement, and then you put the pieces together for at least maybe 10 seconds. They usually would stuck nicely already, but of course you still need to give time to dry it out. And of course, the handiest tool, a little hand file. You can always buy like the bigger ones to file them more easily, but I like to do mine with finer edges, so I always use these thin types. This is from, I think, Mr. Hobby. You can buy these from Mr. Hobby or the Tamiya version. They sell the model shop makers usually make a lot of these hand files, especially these thin ones. All right, so let's move on to the colors. Now for the blue, I did not paint the blue or anything. The blue is just the plastic blue, which is, in my opinion, it's very nice. I like it. Now let's move on to the main biggest part, which is all that mechanic gunmetal. So basically this Tamiya X10 gunmetal is very simple. For the most part, I hand painted the gunmetal parts because it is very hard to use an airbrush to just spray it on without getting on the spots that you don't need to paint it with gunmetal. So unless you're very good at masking tapes, but I usually just hand paint in these kind of parts. So I painted like the chest area here, the little neck collar bone area here, the arms, the head face here, the little details on top of his head, and the door on his back and that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then the grays like on his shoulders, the helicopter mold kind of in general. I actually use a joint blue Natska color. This is Gaia Notes. Joint gray. It's kind of like this bluish gray, but when you paint it out, it looks very purpley or bluey, kind of like pale blue gray. Yeah. And then maybe like the tinier details, like let's say the guns here and all that, I just use gold to kind of cover up the detail. And then the finer, and then the dry brushings, battle damage, I just use Tamiya flat aluminium. And you can also use the X11 chrome silver. I use flat aluminium because this is the only one I can get in my local hobby shops. Basically, you know, you just, if you know anything about dry brushing, you just basically get like a brush, dip it in the paint, wipe it out on some tissues, wipe out the axis, and just dab it all over it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my dropkick. So I'll also show you how he looks with the cannon on finally. Yeah, that's how he looks. It looks fine, and it looks really good on him. And yeah, so lastly, let's just showcase him with some of my other Bumblebee movie characters. Here is Dropkick with the Studio Series Soundwave, which I also customized. And then next up, he is with the leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime. This is the Studio Series. This is the Studio Series version that I heavily painted, pretty much. And then lastly, the Bumblebee or Bumblebee. This is the off-road Bumblebee, the one that turns into the Jeep version. I like this one a lot because I'll just explain it. I prefer. I don't have the Volkswagen one. I don't have the, because I like this one because of just how nicely proportionate this guy looks. And it's very clean in general. Like whether you're looking at the front or the side or the back, it just looks very nicely clean. So this is my personal favorite Bumblebee. I don't have any other versions of the Bumblebee, and this is my only one. So yeah. There you go. That is my custom built dropkick from the Bumblebee movie. I hope you all enjoy this video, and see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.